Hey, loves, it's Grace Redmond. And as always, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk. I'm always grateful that you're here because I know there are so many other places that you can be, and I appreciate you. And please share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you our amazing guests. So, again, this is Grace Redmond, and welcome to Real Talk, where I get to have real life raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who have overcome challenges and created amazing. Today, my guest is the savvy George Bazlamit. George is a Bay Area native and a first generation Palestinian-American who grew up with a passion for real estate. He comes from a long line of home builders, buyers, and investors. What he loves most is helping his clients find their dream homes and guiding them to start building generational wealth. For him, it all begins and ends with open communication and building strong relationships. Being in business for close to 20 years, George has ridden several real estate waves and economic downturns, including the housing market crash of 2008 and the pandemic. George is passionate about providing his clients concierge personalized service. He prides himself on mitigating his clients' risks and handling problems to ensure their experience is as seamless as possible. So here he is, 20 years later, and he finally has figured out what he wants to be when he grows up. He is dedicated to guiding families toward financial literacy and building generational wealth. Please help me welcome George Bazlamit today. Hi, George.
Hey Grace, how are you? So nice to see you.
Thank you. So nice to see you too. Thank you so much for joining us today.
This is awesome. I mean, it's an honor to be here. I've never really thought I'd ever do a podcast. This is actually really cool.
Oh,
I'm
I
super,
love it. It's so
me and my wife, me and Ivy were talking about this all last night. Like, she's like,
oh,
do good, talk clearly, look into the camera, all that fun stuff. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And you know what? This is just like a conversation, at the dinner table. So I'll make it, easy and gentle. But again, it's funny because, a lot of my guests are nervous. And then when they're done, they're like, oh my God, that was so easy. Like we're sitting at the dinner table after dinner having a cup of coffee. I'm like, exactly.
Well, that's
Exactly.
that's all because of you, Grace. You make it simple, make it easy, and everybody's comfortable being around you. So I mean, it all starts and ends with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, it's a co-collaboration. So I I love entrepreneurship, as you know, being in business for 25 years myself. And I always love, talking shop with other entrepreneurs. And, one of you've, been in business for over 20 years doing real estate investing, and most recently doing, the financial advising. And it's not easy being an entrepreneur, especially making it through the last 20 years. Like we've had so many downturns. We faced, one of the most challenging economic crises since the depression in 2008. And recently we faced the pandemic. And I know that we're in a cycle now. And so how do you do it as an entrepreneur? How do you ride those waves? Because it's tough.
It is tough, and over and through all of these waves, we've lost many realtors throughout the years. If they come in, people think it's an easy job. They realize they do one or two sales, then it's hard. They fall wayside. So these roller coaster rides have pushed many people out of the market. So it's freed up space for the realtors who have been here for a long time, who are willing to stick it out, who are willing to not make a lot of money from time to time, and then from time to time make a fair amount of money. You just have to stay consistent, persistent, and believe in yourself. And it's not always the social media aspect is great, right? You can post every single day, but I really like to get down and get into the city and go see my clients, go into their grocery stores, go into their restaurants, go into their bars, remember something about them and their family, and kind of always reminisce about how things were and could be. So you always have to stay relevant. That's the biggest issue with real estate, is you have to stay relevant and you have to stay in people's faces.
And what does it mean by staying relevant? I mean, I heard you talk about commitment, consistency, persistence with, yes, I agree. And what do you mean by staying relevant?
So relevant in the real estate field. So real estate is a tough business because there's not a lot of really I want to say people that are dedicated to working only with you no matter what they do when it comes to real estate. So I could work with one client and sell them 2, 3, 4 properties over the years. But then they walk into a house one day, they find something they like, they work a deal with the realtor on the spot, and they forget about you. Or they think they're getting a better deal. And then when problems arise, they come to you to help fix those problems as they arise while they're working with somebody else. So it's not a business that if you're not in people's face all the time, reminding them that you're here, no matter how good you are, people will always find an easier way. So you have to stay relevant. You have to stay in their face. You have to let them know that you're still here, that you're in the business. Because we haven't done a transaction in 2 or 3 years doesn't mean I'm still not around. I mean, it just happened to me last week with one of my investor groups. They bought a property and they called me afterwards saying, "Hey, we ran into a problem. What can we do about this?" And sure enough, they were working with the realtor. And remember, as realtors, we're fiduciaries. We work for the seller. We don't necessarily work for the buyer. We're representing both sides. So she took it upon herself to take care of the seller and didn't take care of the buyer. And now they had an issue. So it's things like this. You always want proper representation. And in order to have that, you have to have somebody on both sides.
Mhm.
So stay relevant, stay in their face all the time.
What does stay in their face mean? That like feels rough, like stay in their face.
No, it means go down and shake hands and remind them that you're around and take them out for coffee and, show up at their kids' birthday parties and invite them to backyard barbecues, this kind of thing. Just
So is that where the building the relationships come in?
you're building relationships and you're building trust. At the end of the day, this is a trust-based business, right? The more the client knows they can trust you, the more they're going to come back and want to work with you. And it's not that they sometimes go somewhere else because they don't trust you, but they go somewhere else because it's easier. But
Yes.
this is a relationship business. You have to build it, and your clients have to trust you. And as you build that trust, then their kids come to you and their grandkids come to you, and you're doing transactions for many generations of the same family.
Which is beautiful, and I believe, being in business myself for 25 years, if I hadn't focused on the relationships, when I first walked into entrepreneurship, I wouldn't have survived 25 years and the economic downturns. My industry gets hit very hard, and for me, I had to step back and recognize, okay, Grace, it's not about the bottom line, it's about the relationships. When I build the relationships, then the bottom line comes. And it's about service as well. And so 25 years ago, that wasn't an easy decision to make because you're right out of college and, everyone's like, money, make money, you got to make money. And so you're focused on the money, and that killed me.
And that's what a lot of times the focus is. Here in the Bay Area, it's hard, right? Everybody struggles. I don't care if you make 100,000 a year or $2 million a year. Everybody has their own struggles. The
True.
money here is tough. The living here is tough. So people are always out there looking for a side hustle, looking for a way to come up, looking for that next big IPO that they can stick a few bucks into and hopefully turn it into $1 million. So people chase the dollar. I mean, it happened. It happens with the girls, for example. They got out of college. I tried to push them to go overseas and travel and experience. And our Mira, for example, she got a job out of college. She got a house. She got married, has kids,
Sure.
and now no, it's great. She's doing everything that she had her mind set on. But that travel aspect has kind of been mitigated for a little while until she gets further on in her career. And
Mm.
Indy kind of went backwards. Indy says, "I'm going to take 2 months," and she took 2 months and she traveled and she got to see the world, and now she's to work. So everybody follows their own path, but
Yes.
people do chase that money. And I mean, I'm guilty of it, and that's kind of what got me here. Why it took 25 years to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, and that's part of it. We all chase it and chase it until we realize that there's more to it than just that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're right. In my early, when I first started my career, again, chasing it, and it was so exciting, but it
Oh yeah.
wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable because then you get burnt out and you're exhausted. And again, what I've learned, and I love the book, The Go-Getter. That's an amazing book because that helped me so much, when I started my career. It talked about how the relationships, the taking care of the people around you, that's what builds your business. Not that we don't have to take action, of course we need to take action. However, if I take my focus off we're going to be smart and strategic, but if we take the focus off that and make it about what you said, the relationships and being there for people, then the rest of it falls into place. And I'm grateful, for that. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, as you know. What would you say has been one of your greatest challenges as an entrepreneur?
Greatest challenge as an entrepreneur is letting
Yeah.
go of of the Superman mentality, right? I can do it all. I don't need anybody. I don't need an accountant. I don't need a bookkeeper. I don't need somebody to help answer the phones. I don't need a CRM to put all my information into it, right? Meanwhile, I've got 5,000 post-its all over my counter. Um, it's letting go and finding professionals in every field that can help you grow and grow to where you're not putting a detriment on yourself, a detriment on your family, where you're not making as many mistakes as I did, because you make mistakes when you're Superman, right? You can't do it all. You think you can until you fall down, and then you have to figure out how to get back up. And that's the greatest learning experience, and that's what's taken so long. I had to learn from mistakes, learn that I needed to have proper people in my life to give me that proper guidance, and then you can grow. But
Yes.
that's probably the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur, is learning early on that you have to not just delegate, but find the proper people in every aspect of your life that can help your business flourish.
You're so right. I agree with that 100%. And I had a challenging time letting go. I was blessed. I always had a team. However, I still believed I could do it all by myself, and then raise the kids and go here and do this. And then one of my coaches, he was like, "You're gonna die. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yep.
there's more delegate, delegate more, hire this, do that." Um, and I know the challenge is, oh, well, I don't have, the means to invest. However, what comes first, the horse or the cart,
Right.
right? So it's
Right.
when you invest, that frees more time. So I agree with you. I love that. But you also said, that's why it took you 25 years. But also, don't you believe like everything happens the way it does? Like we learn, like we don't know everything when we're in our 20s.
No, absolutely, and it's all part of the growing process. Last night I was watching a little video that popped up, and old Steve Jobs was on there, and he went out and he says, "Listen," he said, "what I did is I hired only A people." He said, "I hired one A person, two A people, three A people, four A people." He says, "Finally, I had a team of just A people, and they worked seamlessly together. And then it became a self-policing business where they didn't want to work with B and C people." And if they worked with B and C people, by chance, those B and C people started to kind of get their act together, and their game started to rise. But at the end of the day, they only wanted to work with A people and A players, because those are the ones that succeeded and worked hardest together. So you realize who in your life is going to give you that proper guidance, who in your life is going to help you get to the next level, and you help them get to the next level. It's not about me, me, me. It's about how we can make that team grow, and how we can take all of us to the next level and succeed together. And
I
finding
love
those, yeah, finding those people is the hard part.
I love that because they say that you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Right.
And that's I've always had that, in my mind, because no matter what, you're gonna be influenced. Even if you don't believe you're gonna be influenced, no, it's, I'm okay, like, okay, they're negative or they don't believe, in moving forward. And I accept everyone where they are. However, you're right. When you have those people that want to be at the top of their game, that helps you continue to move forward and
Absolutely.
involve those people. Well, you're right. It's also tough, because we both come from a sales background. My business,
Yep.
both businesses are sales and building relationships. And it takes a unique type of person to really commit to that. It's not easy. It's not easy to be in sales. I'm just gonna call a spade, because you're gonna get rejected more often than you're gonna get no more often than you're gonna get a yes.
Right. One of the guys on the team, he's like, F those no's. Everybody just keeps saying no, 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 no. He says, you know what? Those no's eventually come around, because
Yes,
it's not a matter of me selling them something. It's a matter of whether clients want to invest in themselves. And if
that's
they
right.
want to invest in themselves, we want to help. And we can have all the belief in the world that I want you, Grace, to do this because I know that this will help you at the end. And if you tell me no, eventually you're going to see something and you'll be like, hey, this is what George was talking about. Let me go back and talk to him. And then that investment in yourself comes back. So it's, for me, I don't always think about it as sales. I think of it as self-improvement and self-investment, and we try and get clients to invest in themselves. Of course, it's a transaction, right? There's a pocket on the left, your pocket on the right, and there's somebody in the middle. I want to be that guy in the middle, but I am going to get paid. We are going to get paid. That's part of the sales job. But in the process of this, we want to make sure that the clients are taken care of and they're doing something that's beneficial for themselves. And that's where we come into play.
That's right. And that's where it comes back, to service, to commitment, to, you have to be resilient because you are going to get those no's. And it's like reframing. Okay. Because I remember when I started, they said you need 8 touches, connect with a potential client 8 times. And I feel like that has changed. And now it's not just about a numbers game. It's more, again, about the relationship. How can I serve? It's about service and relationships. And like you said, staying relevant. And what does staying relevant look like? Like you said, just being out in the community and swinging by. Actually, I love that. I love the networking.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and so
And
I don't even look at it as sales anymore. Although again, when you, at the end of the day, it is a transaction. However, it's more about, okay, let's build relationships. I go out and meet with people so many times. I never even, it'll be like 5 months later. I'm like, this is what I do. Would you be interested?
that's what it comes down to, because nowadays doing your job is not enough. Whatever your job is, it's not enough to be the top in your job. It's not enough to be the best in that field. It's your job. 9 to 5 doesn't exist when you're self-employed, right? So you do your job from 9 to 5, and then you spend 5 to 9, socializing, hitting those birthday parties, being at your friends' barbecues, showing up at these things because you need to be out there. You need to socialize. You need to build. We're social animals, right? We have to have that interaction, and then when we're in sales, it's like a social interaction on steroids, right? We feed on that. We have to be in it. And I always get Ivy always tells me, she's like, you're like the social butterfly. You want to talk to everybody and stick your nose in everybody's business. Well, it's kind of like what I do. and and I enjoy it. And if somebody doesn't want me in their business, they tell me. I'm not
Yeah.
offended. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
But is it something we need to do, or is it something just I enjoy it?
Yeah, something we want to do, something, it might be a need. I mean, it's kind of an addiction, right? Being out there talking to people, just
Fun.
having a drink and socializing. So, I mean,
It's
it kind of is, it's a rush.
well, it's also connection.
It's what builds the business.
It's connection.
That's the
And
skill of it.
and that's what fills me, is the connection and helping and being of service. And that's why I keep going back to it's I 20 something years ago, I took my focus off the bottom line. I'm like, okay, Grace, just be of service and connect, and then everything else will fall into place. Because ultimately it is about the relationships and about serving and you know providing the best value to your clients and to your community. And I would say 90% of what I do is not, I don't get paid for it,
Mhm.
and that's okay, because again, it's about the service and it comes back around.
Right, and that's what I was saying earlier. So when my old clients, current clients, whatever it may be, do have a little bit of a fiasco with something that they're working on, I like to be the go-to guy. And
Exactly.
they remember that, hey, I called George, he was able to take care of it, or he gave me the proper guidance, he put me in touch with the right people. And we build that book of business, we keep that old-fashioned Rolodex in the phone, and we know who to call on when we need to call on them. And
Well,
so building those relationships, having those both sides of the coin, where you have the person who needs help and the person who can provide the help, and you put them together, it becomes beneficial for everybody. You just took care of 2 clients or 1 client and maybe a potential client, whatever it may be, but you put them together and now you solve the problem, and people remember.
exactly. And that's what it's about. And people can feel energy. Like when I go out there, I'm so grateful though. Most of the people that I connect with are amazing in my community. I have an amazing community. But sometimes, you could feel the energy. Like someone just wants something, and that doesn't feel good.
Oh,
And it's you don't want to do business, with those people where you could just it's Like, I don't like feeling like a number.
Mhm.
I want to be
Those
taken care
yeah,
of.
those are the time suckers, right? And they don't just suck your time, they suck your energy, and those are the ones you have to part ways with. And I think a lot of times I have a hard time parting ways until I'm poked and prodded
Yeah,
by my better half who says, "You're spending too much time on this, and it's not gonna benefit you in the end." Even though we're not here to just benefit ourselves, it becomes obvious that they're just taking more than they're going to be able to give you in the end. It's got to be there's got to be some reciprocity there. There has to be something for everybody in it at the end, but you also need to. Well, I need to know that I am helping fulfill something for the other end as well.
absolutely. Well, there's boundaries as well, because we being in business, and not just in business, but in our personal lives, boundaries are important. I'm a over giver, you know, and in the past I used to overgive to like, 'cause I'm like, okay, I don't feel good enough, so let me overgive. And I've overcome that. However, I still find myself overgiving because I just naturally like to give. And sometimes I'm like, okay, Grace, like step back
Mhm.
and set your boundary because it's important.
It's hard. It's hard. Once you feel joy in giving, right? That's part of what
Absolutely.
makes you you, and that's the important part of that part of the equation is that you're donating your time, you're donating your knowledge, you're putting in the effort, and it makes you feel good that you've helped somebody. The
For
the flip
sure.
side, the flip side is when the takers keep taking.
Right. And you like you said, there's an energetic reciprocity. And I've also learned, okay, Grace, you want to give in this situation. And then I say, okay, are you giving just to give or do you want something back? I'm like, okay, I'm giving to give. Now if I'm giving because I want something back, then I don't do it because I have an expectation, then I'm gonna get disappointed. And
And
when you give something and you want something back, you're always gonna get disappointed. I mean, you could
that,
argue with me on that, but
No, I won't argue with you on that because that's the problem that givers face the most is that disappointment in the end. Not that we're expecting anything back, but when you're giving that advice and they take it and they do completely opposite of what you tell them, and then everything goes awry, and then they come back to you crying, saying, "Hey, I should have listened to you." That's where the disappointment falls in. Now what do you have to do? Now how do I help you? How do I fix this situation and make things better for you? And that's the disappointment. That's where it kicks in.
what makes you disappointed about like, I mean, what would make you disappointed about that?
What make Man, it happens to me a lot where it's just something within everybody's different, right? Everybody feels a disappointment differently. I feel disappointed when um working with somebody on a project, for example, and without getting, I guess too personal, I get disappointed when people don't own up to what they say they're going to do.
Take
I
accountability.
Yeah, the accountability part, I guess that's a good way
Mhm.
to put it. I tell you I'm going to do this. I tell you I'm going to show up, and to the best of my ability, even if I lose in the process, I'm going to do what I tell you I'm going to do to make sure that you're taken care of, because that's what I promised. And when
Gotcha.
I do get that same reciprocity, or I am promised it by that other side, and they don't come through, that's when I get disappointed.
I hear you. I hear you. So it's like when the other person isn't committed to their word.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah, that could definitely be disappointing. So something that we've talked about is financial literacy, which is so important. And growing up, I don't believe we're taught financial literacy. So why
No.
is financial literacy so important, and what does it mean?
So, I do a lot of, I'm not really good at these videos, but I'm trying to get better at them. So I do my daily posts, and I put stuff on the Instagram and the Facebook, and I talk about generational wealth. And, for most of us, generational wealth within our community was built through real estate. The problem is that nobody really knows how to, unless they have a savvy enough attorney and financial planner, or like a certified financial planner, or a great accountant that can help guide them and say, hey, this is how you're going to transfer these assets to your family, to your heirs, with as little tax ramification as possible, and get it to them and have them understand how to continue with this. Because a lot of times people will fall into a large sum of money, and then they don't know what to do with themselves, right? And it's gone within the first generation, or with their first generation, with their kids, right? Because it's been diluted so much. It went from mom and dad to like 5 kids, and then those 5 kids have spouses, and then each one of those 5 kids have 3 children. So mom and dad's, $15 million estate or whatever it may be, just got diluted down to a couple $1,000,000 a piece, and then their kids, and then it's gone. The issue with transferring generational wealth is that nobody talks about it and nobody explains to you how it needs to be done. There are proven methods out there that very wealthy people have utilized over the years, and it keeps the money within the family for generations to come. And all that begins with financial literacy. And that people tell me, like, George, you talk about generational wealth. We don't have generational wealth. You don't have to. To get generational wealth, you have to build to generational wealth. It always starts with that first, dollar of investing. You can start investing early for your kids, your grandkids, and help them and teach them that financial literacy. Then that dollar continues to grow and also does their literacy, their understanding of how to transfer those funds to their children and their grandchildren. And that's the important thing. That's the part that we're not taught.
So what I heard you say, and I've heard this before, is, well, we can't afford to invest. So what do you say to a young family who's just getting started and they're like, okay, we tell them it's time to invest, but they're, they have young kids, they're sending them to school, they feel that they don't have, enough, they can't afford to invest. Like, what can be that first step?
Great, Grace, anybody that ever says that, the only answer would be is you can't afford not to invest,
right?
You can't afford not to. It doesn't matter how it is. Somebody goes to Pete's, somebody goes to buy that cup of coffee, somebody is doing, there's always an extra expenditure. Somebody has 10 pairs of shoes and they only need 4 or 5. Someone's got half a dozen suits and they only need 2. There's always something. It's a matter of whether they want to, not can't. And I don't believe that nobody can't, because I don't know. I see the druggies on the corner scamming people all day long so they can get money. I mean, if a crackhead can go out and get $20 to buy his hit, you can go out and invest $20 instead of buying coffee. I mean, if a crackhead can figure it out, so can we. And I don't believe that people can't figure it out. Sorry, but it's the truth, right?
You made a good point, and you're right. It's funny because Mike and I were talking about that this morning because he wanted to go grab a cup of coffee at Pete's, and he's like, "You know how much the coffee is?" He's like, can imagine we used to do that every day. And you're right. It's like, where are we choosing to invest? Even us when we were younger, because I started reading The Millionaire Next Door, when I was 20 years old, and they talked about
here on my bookshelf.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I have The Millionaire Next Door, The Millionaire Mind. I have the whole. There's probably 300 books up here right now.
Yeah,
they're sitting here in front of me.
I have 300 books too. But you know what? I wasn't as smart as I could have been when I was younger. Did I read The Millionaire Next Door? Did I make, some good decisions? Yes, I made some good decisions, and I made a lot of bad decisions. I wish, I had someone when I was younger to really to guide me, and I didn't. I didn't. It was just I was reading those books. And what I loved about The Millionaire Next Door is he talked about exactly what you said. It's like these people next door in middle America, making $50,000, a year. However, they did what you're saying. Okay, instead of, buying 5 cups of coffee this week, we're going to buy 3 cups and then that put that away. And so they created wealth from, regular salary. So I hear what you're saying. It's like, we can't afford not to. And where are we, where are we overspending, or where's the spending frivolous, and where can we put it towards investment? Dave Ramsey's great too.
Yeah, he's borderline. he's good at some things, and some things he's off his rocker on. But at the end of the day, what he espouses the most is compound interest, right? And the way that compound interest works is the first dollar invested is going to be worth the most in the end because it's earned the most interest. And you have to start somewhere, whether it's little or you have deep pockets. You have to start somewhere. I know people that make several $100,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, and they barely fund their 401k, which is another topic that that I think is completely sideways within the American community. 401ks are such a scam. But at the end of the day, people just don't save. And then they wonder how they're going to take care of themselves at the end. And then they wait till they're 55, 60, 65 to say, maybe I should start investing now. It's too late at that point.
Well, is it too late?
It's too late to have a comfortable retirement if you want to continue with your lifestyle. Or you plan on leaving the country and going to a place where, the cost of living is 50, 60, 70% less and living off your social security and enjoying your time. If you're okay with that, then great. I mean, I intend on doing that. That's my ultimate goal, but not everybody has that. But I've been planning for that for the last 5 years, and I still have 5 more years to go. So it all depends on how you want to live. Do you want to give up? Do you want to sacrifice your current lifestyle, or do you want to continue with your current lifestyle? So waiting until that age doesn't mean that it's too late in the sense that, why bother? It's too late in the sense that it's hard to maintain that lifestyle that you've had from your 40s to your 50s or 55s or 60s if you start saving at 65 and retire at 70.
Well, got it. So you really need more time. And I would recommend kids start in their 20s. Whatever
Okay.
that might. What could that look like for, like I have a 23-year-old and a 21-year-old. What could that look like? They're working, what could that look like for them to start investing for themselves?
The earlier they start investing, the better. I mean, they could be millionaires by the time they're 60 years old if they start investing. If they start investing in the proper vehicles, putting money away to where it becomes non-taxable, not just taxable accounts or tax deferred accounts, but accounts that grow tax-free indefinitely. Those are the accounts where kids and us, we need to fund. That's where most of our money needs to grow. Pay a little bit of tax now. No one knows what the tax is going to be in 30 or 40 years when you retire, or in 25 years when we retire. No one knows what the tax rate is going to be. So to put all of your money into a 401k where it's all tax deferred, now, instead of paying a couple $1,000 in taxes and waiting till your account hits $1 million at 65, and you're like, I got $1 million. I'm like, no, you don't. You have, 650,000, because 350 is going to the IRS. That's not your money. So you put it into accounts that grow tax free. The IULs of the world, the fixed index annuities of the world, the Roth IRAs, the Roth 401ks. Most companies don't even offer Roth 401ks because it just doesn't benefit the government at the end of the day. But Roth 401ks are like the greatest thing since milk.
So what makes the Roth IRA the greatest thing since milk?
Tax free. Gross tax free. It's always tax free, and you can put more into it than just the standard $6,000 that we're allowed to put into it.
So do you have to have your own business, or can you work? Explain it a little bit more. Like, is that for entrepreneurs?
I honestly, I don't 100% know. I'm not a certified financial planner. I just work on the financial side when it comes to life insurance and annuities. So when you look at like a little pie chart and you cut it into 4 pieces, in the top right-hand corner of that pie chart is going to be death benefits, right? Somebody passes, they want to make sure that they have enough end-of-life coverage to bury them. The second part of that pie chart is going to be mortgage insurance, making sure that if I pass, my family, my wife has enough money to cover the mortgage, at least the house is safe. Then the third and fourth are going to be indexed universal life policies and annuities. That's the side that I focus on. So I'm not a certified financial planner. I don't do equities. I don't do anything that has to do with mutual funds or any of that stuff. I just know a little bit about all of these things because we've been self-employed forever. So you have to learn a little bit about them.
For sure.
Now the Roth IRA is great because we can dump 6,000. I think that after 52, you can put $7,500 a year. They call it the catch up. So we're dumping more money into it. So you can put more and it grows tax free. But everything that it grows to is tax free because you're paying money on that money before you put it in, right?
Okay, you just answered the question right there.
It's a pre-tax contribution. So that's the beauty of that. So everything that it grows to is completely tax free. If you have $1 million in that Roth 401k through your work, that $1 million is yours. Whereas your buddy has $1 million at his standard 401k, he only has 70% of it. So That's where I work with a lot of individuals, a lot of self-employed, a lot of people who want to fund their own long-term care because long-term care is important, and
Yeah,
that's where a lot of our family members have been burned in the last that I remember 20 years where they don't have enough money to pay for a nurse or home or a nurse to come into the house or be put into a home where children are suffering because now they have to stay home with mom or dad to help take care of them and give up on their work and give up on taking care of their kids while they're taking care of mom and dad. It's a whole Benjamin Button circle, and that long-term care is important. So these things are what I work on, and all of these policies grow tax-free as well.
mhm. And I recently, invested in, one of those policies, and like you said, you can't afford not to.
Mhm.
You can't afford, not to do that, and you have to look at the long term, not in the now. And that's what it's about. It's a compound, interest, and also having respect for money, having respect for the dollar.
Okay.
And I
Eh,
believe that when we have respect for it, you know, it grows. And it's at the end of the day, it's also not all about money. However, money does give us freedom. Money, can secure our families. And I feel like that's what we want. I feel amazing that I can, help my kids. Of course, we want them to help themselves, like, help yourself. And because but it's not about greed or having all of these things. It's about freedom.
it's like we had started off earlier, Grace. These policies and that respect for money is all about that investing in yourself, right?
That's right.
You have to be able to take care of yourself without providing a massive detriment to your children's lifestyles as well. Yeah, we suffered for our kids, but we don't. Why would we? I necessarily don't want my kids to suffer for me. So I want to be able to, when I do go, leave them with something, but at least if I have to be, if I'm incapacitated or if I need help, I certainly don't want my one of my girls coming over and having to bathe me and change me and feed me, where these things allow for a nurse to come into your house and help. These policies pay for that, and that's the beauty of it. Is you invest in yourself, you have to have that respect for the money, and you put it into places that are going to benefit you in your older age, so you're not causing a massive detriment to the rest of your family.
And I'm sure your girls would be happy to come support you and help you. And I hear what you're saying. It's good to have those because, the long-term care is something that is pricey. And on the flip side, if we never need that long-term care, I know the funds just come back to the family. And so either way, you're benefiting.
Indeed, and then the family can help do with whatever that needs to be done for you for your care. Yeah, my daughters would be. I know they would be there to help and help support, but what does support mean, right? They're gonna be there to hold my hand and make sure I'm okay and I'm feeling well. If I need to be fed,
Right.
and that's great. But do I want them
Right.
changing my diaper? Do I want them bathing me? Do I want them getting me dressed? No, I don't think
Right.
any mom or dad wants their kids doing that, right?
No,
So
no,
this is one of those things where it's not a question of should you do it, but why wouldn't you do it? You should be doing this for your own sake, not your kids' sake, but for your own sake, so you have some dignity in your elder age as well.
for sure. And also, I mean, this is going to be a whole other podcast, but there's also always, fear around money and holding on to it and not letting it go. And in that fear comes the lack. In that fear, that money cannot compound. So, and hey, I've made some major mistakes financially, major mistakes,
We all
you know,
have.
major mistakes, lost so much money. But I learned, and I'm still learning. And
It's
at the
it.
end,
So
yeah,
in every business, like Grace, like we're saying the other day, there are bad actors in real estate and attorneys and mortgage guys and life insurance people. There's people out there that are after lining their pockets and not so much worried about what is the best policy or the best benefit for the client. And I think that's where you and I differ, is that, or not you and I differ, where you and I are the same, is that we are not looking to make our retirement off of one client. We're looking to make sure that the client is taken care of, and we're putting them into something that is going to be beneficial for them, for their family, for their children, for huge period of time, especially for working with people within the community, right? We built good reputations for ourselves, and you can't lose that reputation because you did wrong by one person. So it's a matter of building that trust, building that relationship, and then making sure that the client is well served. It's always the mission. We always say it's, kind of corny, but it's always the mission before the commission, right? Make sure the client's taken care of, and then the commission will come. So it's always the mission first.
Absolutely. And again, I've lived that way, from I've been in business for 25 years, and that's how I grew my business. It's not about the bottom line, it's about the relationship, it's about service, it's about giving back, and then it all comes back for us. The most important thing, I wanted, today was to what I really wanted to impose today was how important it is to get financially educated. If you need to and you're watching, like, reach out to George, pick up the Millionaire Next Door, pick up the Millionaire Mindset. And I'm not saying these things out of greed or like, oh, let's be a millionaire. It's about just educating yourself to, create a foundation for yourself and your family so you can do those things like travel or be there to support someone in need because you can. Because sometimes if you have to work, you can't take that time off, right? To be there for the people you love. So now I'm rambling, but that's the point. It's just really get financially educated. And it's not something we've always talked about. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Absolutely. I love being here. That financial education is what we are most lacking in this country. And if we don't know, we can't impart that knowledge onto our kids, and they don't teach it in schools. So we have to really push and make sure that people understand how money works. And
Yes.
money just isn't just it's printed and spent, but there is a big circle on how it works, and really people need to understand how it works. I'd love to reach out to me, get a hold of me. You can find me easy. Instagram, Facebook, I'm out there. Get a hold of Grace. She can get you in touch with me.
Absolutely. And we also have, your information here for anyone who's interested in chatting with you. And again, at the end of the day, it is about service, and everything else, it comes back around. And it's important just to be educated. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You made me laugh too.
Remember, crackhead can do it, so can you.
Oh my gosh. So thank you all for watching. We appreciate you. I'm grateful for you being here because I know there's so many other places. And again, please share, like, and subscribe so we can still keep showing up. God bless you. And thank you, George. Hang on with me. Take
Thanks.
care, everyone. Bye.